SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, things are heating up in Minnesota. At the Combine, the team sat down with a massive defensive lineman to add more muscle to the middle. An unexpected veteran quarterback has suddenly become available for trade. In the middle of all that, an insider talked about a real competition for the QB1 job. And there is a big name floating around as potential bait. To cap it off, a blunt reason surfaced for a firing that has shaken the last few days. Let's get into it. Something interesting is happening behind the scenes at the Combine. While most people are locked in on quarterbacks and wide receivers, the Vikings front office has been focused on size, explosion, and presence in the trenches. Brian Flores' defense was aggressive last season, but against the run, there were still moments that made anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football uncomfortable. Then a name popped up that not many expected to hear connected to Minnesota. After 6 years battling at Clemson, with 57 games under his belt and plenty of dirty work inside, Damontae Capehart met with the Vikings at the Combine. He is not the guy lighting up highlight reels with sacks. He posted 72 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. The stat line does not jump off the screen. The physical impact does. In testing, he surprised people. For a player over 300 pounds and taller than 6'4", running the 40-yard dash in under 4.85 seconds and posting a vertical over 33 inches is rare company. His name landed on a list that has mostly featured elite offensive linemen over the years. He was the only defensive player there. That turns heads. It really does. Recent evaluations describe Capehart as a defensive tackle who can eat double teams, control his gap, and hold his ground. Strong anchor. Disciplined. Not a pure pass rusher, but dependable against the run. And remember, the Vikings ranked 9th in run defense DVOA last season. Solid, but not dominant like their pass defense. There is room to improve. The money angle matters too. Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave are expensive. The salary cap is tight. Hargrave in particular could become a logical financial move. If that happens, adding a young piece like Capehart alongside Levi Drake Rodriguez and Tyrion Ingram Dawkins starts to build a younger, cheaper defensive line. To be honest with you, I like the idea. It is not flashy. It will not sell jerseys overnight. But championships are built in the trenches. Flores needs guys who can take a punch in the middle. A Combine meeting guarantees nothing. But when a team sits down with a player, it means real evaluation. And that deeper layer of analysis is what you get here, not just cold spreadsheet talk. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you invest a day 3 pick in a player like this? Because if this was the quiet move at the Combine, wait until you hear what is brewing in the quarterback room. The quarterback room is anything but calm. There is tension in the air. The team wants competition for J.J. McCarthy, but they do not want to immediately bench the 23-year-old. It is a delicate balance. Push him without crushing his confidence. In that context, a familiar veteran name surfaced. A player many see as a placeholder, yet still capable of stabilizing an offense. Andy Dalton could be open to exploring a trade, according to comments from Carolina's general manager. This is not empty speculation. The executive admitted that if a deal came up, he would talk to Dalton and give him the option. Dalton brings experience. Over the past few seasons, he has completed nearly 65% of his passes and averaged 6.4 yards per attempt. In that stretch, he threw 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Not spectacular, not disastrous. When Bryce Young was benched, Dalton started 5 games. The Panthers went 1-4, but the offense functioned. That is where the debate lives. Minnesota needs someone who can steady the ship if McCarthy struggles or gets hurt. The memory of scrambling for a late solution still stings. No one wants that again. Dalton, who will turn 39 during the upcoming season, offers quick processing, leadership, and poise. But here is the other side. He does not move the needle much. He is not the type of addition that makes fans dream bigger. Since 2019, he is 16-33 as a starter. Context matters. He has not played on powerhouse rosters. Still, the question lingers. To be honest with you, if the plan is simply to secure an experienced insurance policy, Dalton makes sense. If the goal is to truly push McCarthy in a fierce competition, it might not be enough. Real competition creates real doubt. Some analysts have mentioned Joe Flacco as a cheaper option since he is a free agent. Others point to quarterbacks with higher ceilings. Minnesota has to decide what identity it wants. Full faith in the young guy, or a backup strong enough to take over without a drop-off? McCarthy went 6-4 as a starter, but he completed just 57.6% of his passes with 11 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. There were flashes, there were struggles. He still looks like a work in progress. That makes a franchise with a narrowing window uneasy. If Dalton arrives, he becomes a shadow, a respectful one, but a shadow. And too much shadow can shift a locker room dynamic. Locker room dynamics are real. The real question is not whether Andy Dalton can still play. It is whether he raises the competitive level or simply maintains the status quo. And once you start talking about true competition, bigger names enter the conversation. What one insider said this week completely changes the scale of this debate. But first, a quick favor. Subscribe to the channel. It is free and it helps grow this community. Now let's keep going. The noise got louder when a major insider stepped in. Not just any voice. Someone deeply connected to Minnesota. And what was said poured gasoline on the quarterback debate. Tom Pelissero reported that the Vikings' plan is to create a legitimate competition for the QB1 job. Not lip service. Not a veteran brought in to hold a clipboard. A real battle. And when he started naming potential fits, everything shifted. Two quarterbacks stood out as logical options. Kyler Murray and Geno Smith. Pause and think about that. Kyler Murray was the first overall pick. He has a big arm, elite mobility, and he is still in his prime years. Geno Smith was outstanding in Seattle from 2022 through 2024. 2 Pro Bowls and even a 9th-place MVP finish in 2022. These are not background players. Pelissero's reasoning is clear. Unlike Aaron Rodgers or a reunion with Kirk Cousins, Murray or Smith could walk in on equal footing. No overwhelming legacy. No emotional baggage with the fan base. To be honest with you, that idea is intriguing. Real competition reveals character. If J.J. McCarthy wins the job against someone like that, he earns it with credibility. If he loses, the team still has a proven starter. It is a bold but calculated approach. Pelissero also stated that Justin Jefferson still believes in McCarthy. That matters. Locker room belief is powerful. But he also pointed out that the organization wants options because McCarthy has not proven he can stay healthy. No one wants to be signing emergency quarterbacks in late August. Imagine training camp with McCarthy throwing rep for rep against Kyler Murray or against Geno Smith. Every practice becomes must-watch, every mistake magnified. Does that accelerate development or crush confidence? Fans are split. Some see it as hidden doubt. Others see a healthy professional environment. I see a franchise that understands it cannot afford to miss at quarterback. Jump into the comments. Would you bring in one of those names to compete, or would you hand McCarthy the job without a heavy shadow? Because while this possibility excites part of the fan base, there is another name circling that could change everything, and not necessarily for the better. There is a shiny trap on the horizon, and when that name involves a legendary veteran, the risk doubles. Talent is tempting, history is powerful, but it is not always the right path. Aaron Rodgers is once again being linked to the Vikings. According to recent national television discussions, there is a belief that Rodgers would have interest in Minnesota if the door were open. We heard similar talk last year. Now it is back. Rodgers is 42 years old, yet he finished last season with more than 3,300 passing yards and 24 touchdowns. Not the MVP version from 2020, but far from done. Put him in an offense with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hawkinson, and the imagination runs wild. The fit looks clean on paper, indoor stadium, explosive weapons, creative head coach, primetime drama. Games against Green Bay would dominate headlines. The media would dissect every press conference. It would be a spectacle. But here is the hard truth. To be honest with you, Rodgers becomes the center of the franchise the second he walks in. Every storyline runs through him. Every loss becomes a saga. Every win raises the question of how long he can sustain it. Dominique Foxworth made a strong point. You cannot assume Aaron Rodgers is an easy piece to plug into any puzzle. He brings personality, history, and enormous expectations. The moment the season starts, his narrative becomes the main plot. Minnesota has been building its own identity under Kevin O'Connell. The young core is still forming. Dropping Rodgers into that mix shifts the entire storyline. It is not just about arm talent. It is about timeline. He is a short-term answer. Maybe 1 year, maybe 2. Then what? Do you reset again, or delay the development of the quarterback you drafted? I understand the appeal. Seeing Rodgers throw to Jefferson in purple and gold would be electric. But football is not just about highlights. It is about stability and long-term planning. Sometimes the smartest move is resisting the bait. And while the quarterback debate is intense, it almost feels small compared to what surfaced about a recent firing. Here is where things get serious. When the information came out, it stunned people. The dismissal of the former general manager had been surrounded by different explanations, draft concerns, personal leave, but the blunt reason that emerged recently was about quarterback decision-making. Peter Schrager shared a straightforward assessment of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's exit. According to him, ownership did not like how the quarterback room was handled. The organization had experienced options in the building: Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, interest from Aaron Rodgers. And still, the decision was to move forward with J.J. McCarthy as the starter, with Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer behind him. That carries weight. Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell had compiled a 43-25 regular season record together. That is not failure. But when quarterback decisions are questioned, patience disappears. Ownership wants certainty at that position. To be honest with you, firing someone for committing to the development of a young quarterback after 1 year feels harsh. But this is the NFL. If leadership believes safer alternatives were on the table and were passed over, consequences follow. Schrager suggested the franchise does not want to make the same mistake twice. That implies the internal view was that relying solely on McCarthy was too risky, even factoring in injury, even considering context. Yet the other side exists. Rodgers was short-term. Daniel Jones has a limited track record of high-level play. Darnold has been inconsistent. None were guaranteed solutions. Drafting McCarthy meant committing to his growth. Abandoning that after one season could have signaled panic. Culture requires consistency. Kwesi has moved on. Minnesota is still balancing present and future. His decision cost him his job. In the long run, it could still prove correct if McCarthy develops. What is undeniable is that the quarterback question defines jobs, direction, and championship windows. And when you look at all of this together, it feels like the franchise is standing at a true crossroads. Sometimes you have to take a breath and face reality. This is not just about a combine prospect, not just about Andy Dalton, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith, or the shadow of Aaron Rodgers. It is about identity. We talked about reinforcing the trenches with DeMonte Capehart. We talked about pushing J.J. McCarthy with a veteran. We examined a potential open competition, and we confronted the hard truth behind Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's departure. Everything comes back to one question: who leads this team moving forward? The defense wants to be tougher against the run. The offense needs stability. The locker room needs clarity. You cannot live in constant uncertainty at quarterback. At the same time, you cannot abandon a young project out of impatience. I have seen promises turn into disappointment. I have seen criticized decisions become historic wins. The difference is conviction. Minnesota is at a defining moment. Either it commits to development within a competitive environment, or it chases short-term headlines. Write in the comments what you think about all of this. This space belongs to the fans in purple and gold. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.